Welcome everybody to another episode of techn00bians, where we are the Nubians that talk about video games, technology, and other nerd stuff that everybody else wants to talk about. They can't talk about it like us. Uh, I have my lovely host here. I have Cherie.
Hey everyone, my name is Cherie Bryant. I worked in gaming for about 12 years. I'm working currently as a director of program management at a local tech company and uh, co uh, co chair of DEI.
Shanae.
Hey y'all, Shanae Bryant. Sheree Bryant's my twin sister. I've been in the game industry for almost 20 years. Worked at a lot of different places. 4.5 years at Capcom. I was a Mega Man producer. I was a Devil May Cry producer. I also do a lot of stuff in DEI with women in games and black in gaming. Nice to meet everybody.
Leon Pryor.
Hello, everybody. My name is Leon Pryor. Worked in games for about 16 years, mostly in Microsoft and the Xbox group. Currently, I work for a technology company out of Detroit, and I've co-founded a STEM organization called the Motor City Alliance, which helps youths with FIRST Robotics.
And we have Travis Williams.
Hi, I'm Travis. I'm a game producer designer, ex tabletop RPG designer, and class clown.
Is that the official title?
And Shanae's my twin sister as well.
See, people can believe that now.
I can see how y'all look alike. Y'all are
see it?
definitely twins.
You see it?
Y'all are
Okay.
definitely twins.
Yeah, no doubt.
First up, let's get into some heavy news. Let's start it off because we've been talking about this on the network for a while, on the Geekish Network, and everybody knows we've been talking about this for a while. The Asian American incident in Atlanta, Georgia, where a white male went to 3 different salons and massage parlors and shot and killed 8 women. First of all, we stand here as allies to the Asian American community and the Asian community, in the Pacific Islander community, and we know where this initially came from. Was just a long stream of hate from the United States government for a long time, and our previous president actually spewing up more hate with his reaction and his activities with the coronavirus COVID-19. Does anybody on the panel want to talk about this in more detail and how we stand with the Asian American community?
I mean, I'm not gonna. This is really rough. Because I have Asian people in my family. Some of my really great lifelong friends, are Asian, and it hits home. It hits home because, well, first and foremost, because it's just stupid, right? I mean, it is. I mean, it's stupid. It's short-sighted. It's racist, and it shouldn't be tolerated. And when I posted on my social, I said, whenever I talk about racism, they got my back, right? And so I could do no less, and people shouldn't ignore it. They shouldn't just think this is just going to go away, because it's just not. And unless people actually speak up, it's never going to go away.
Yeah, Trevor Noah had a really thoughtful and great statement on this just recently too, that talked about, we saw this coming. Like, one of the things that America is really great at, and love this country, but one of the things we're really great at is pretending that something's new. Is pretending that it's like, man, how does this keep happening? How does all this gun violence keep happening? How does this, anti-Asian American hate keep happening? How do these racist attacks, these sexist attacks, like, how does this keep happening? And it's like, guys, it's never not been happening.
Yep.
That's the thing. And I think that, this global pandemic, like COVID, this global pandemic has sort of opened a lot of people's eyes to the fact that this is like, it's not just like a thing that we have it's every day. This is a common thing. Like your Black and brown folks, your women, your LGBTQIA, folks from marginalized identities, folks from marginalized ethnicities. Like this is our everyday. This is stuff we deal with. And yes, you see those spikes where the violence, peeks through and suddenly it's hitting the evening news. But make no mistake, this wasn't like a new thing that happened. George Floyd wasn't a new thing that happened. This is what America typically is every single day. And I appreciate that, we are gaining a lot more allies and a lot more awareness, and people are starting to move towards action, because that's where we need them to be. Like, I don't need to hear another news story saying this is going to start a new conversation about race in America. Y'all, we've been having a conversation for 400 years. Can we start doing something now?
Yeah.
And as far as it comes to most recent attacks like that, like anti-Asian American, anti-Asian American Pacific Islander violence, please do more than just talk. Please do more than just passively listen. Like, they are telling us, like, as allies, they are telling us what we need to do. So listen to that and do something.
And honestly, that is such a gift, because it's so exhausting as like a person from a marginalized community to have to kind of always be like, telegraph, here's what I need you to do, right? Especially because you're having the same conversations over and over again. One of the things that's been frustrating for me this week about this is, yes, there were 8 people who were murdered, and 6 of those people were of AAPI descent. And just this equivocating over whether it was an issue about race, that is deeply frustrating for me, because I'm like, okay, first of all, we know it's about race because the people in the AAPI community said it was about race.
Thank you.
That's all you need to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah. I'm like, you don't go to Atlanta and shoot 8 random people and they happen to like all be Asian. Atlanta's a pretty chocolate city, okay? Like,
it really is.
Let's be
A
honest.
very chocolate city.
Yeah.
The chocolate city.
You got to go out of your way.
You got to go out of your way. And it's been deeply frustrating to me for people to be equivocating over this as to whether this was an issue of race, because frankly, yes, it is important for us to understand the intentions, but it is not important for us to understand it before we actually speak out and before we actually make some of those connections.
Say that again for the people in the back.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the thing that's been frustrating, because so much of the time I feel like that equivocating is just to excuse us from taking action. We have to know every single detail. We have to know every little thing about it before we do something about it, before we even speak out about it. I'm just like, why do you need to know every single thing? You can look at it, and honestly, for people who I've spoken to, they said, well, we don't know yet. I'm like, yeah, we know. For people in marginalized communities, we know when something is about race. We know when people are gaslighting us, and I think it's important for us to listen to people in AAPI community, what they're telling us, take it as the gift that they're telling us, hey, here's what we need, and act on it.
I think, just to also kind of harp on your point, all of us understand what it's like to literally live our lives under siege and to not know who is an enemy. So really, when we say we understand, we do. We really get it, and we really understand what these communities are feeling. And I think to your point is also very solid. It's like when people identify this as an issue, it's time to shut up and listen and find out what they need. But the only thing that harkens, that gives me a little bit hope in the past year is, for so long in this, is from our community, because that's the perspective I have, right? We've been saying that there are these problems in the world and no one believes us, right? Oh, you're just too sensitive. Oh, you're always playing the race card and things like that. Well, no one says that anymore, because the people that are against us wear uniforms and they speak out, and all this is clear. So that narrative, that feels different. So I'm hoping whereas things for our community seem to be moving in a positive direction, that we can also marshal that same energy towards our Asian American and Pacific Islander communities as well. Because, just because their stereotypes are different from ours doesn't make them right.
And can I say, like, we need to do something about just policing at least some people's reactions. I mean, you don't kill 8 people because you had a bad day. I mean, I've had several bad days. I haven't killed anybody.
What do you usually do when you have a bad day, Travis?
I play video games.
Yeah.
There you
You
go.
know,
How about that?
Yeah.
like eat a
Do
cheesecake.
that.
You know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
eat
You know?
chocolate, do something,
Go
go work
my
out, go walking,
Exercise,
Right?
something.
Or how about this?
Let's keep it.
read a
Get
book.
therapy. Get therapy.
Therapy.
Oh my goodness.
Well, but even then, just the media's reaction, right? When when these guys are killers, they're promising swimmers or whomever. There's always some positive story about them, and the police go get the Burger King and things like that.
Oh my goodness.
It's there's an entire there was a meme going on a few years, which is like, if they arrest me, they're going to say these bad things about me, like here's some positive press on myself, because these aren't the things that are going to make the news. And I feel like the media just bends over backwards to paint this person as just like, oh, it was just a bad day. We don't really know this was racially motivated. No, it's just he had some religious struggles. No, guy was a terrorist. Period. Racist
Yeah.
terrorist.
Thank you.
Yes. Terrorists makes it much easier. It's straightforward. So,
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, and yeah, so we should just have that conversation, just like our viewer said. I mean, people try to push it off, so it gets out of the cycle. You know what I'm saying? Because people are like, oh, 8 people died. I mean, what else is in the news? And it's crazy.
you know what it is too? Like I find this is one of the interesting things I've seen too, because like, now that we're locked at home and folks are like, we're going out less and stuff. I hope to get my shot in my arm eventually so I can, be a little bit more mobile, not go out crazy. a little bit more mobile, but it's almost like in America there's an acceptable level of violence. There's an acceptable level of like, oh, racism just happens, and sometimes it's really bad and it gets out of hand, but like it's almost like we're comfortable with a certain amount of violence, like as the majority in America, and we should never get comfortable.
It's
Like,
sad but true.
yeah, we should never get comfortable with this stuff, because while we've got folks out here equivocating, trying to figure out, well, did he have a bad day? Was blood sugar too high? Like, did he stub his toe on the way out the door? Like, we're trying to come up with these asinine reasons as to, like, that explains white supremacy and racism and misogyny all mixed up. Like, we're avoiding a conversation that is literally hundreds of years in the making. And I've often said, like, past behavior predicts future behavior. They say history doesn't repeat, it rhymes. We wind up in these exact same situations because we're unwilling to reckon with the things that were the founding principles of our country. And we tell a really pretty story about, like, the founding of America and stuff, but America and many other countries have this same nasty history. America has a lot of nasty things that we were founded upon, and a lot of that stuff still continues even to this day. And unless we're willing to have these really painful, uncomfortable conversations that will require us to really be thoughtful and actually care about people. And yes, language changes, and we should, like, I'm glad there's more words to identify, like, for people to identify who they are, like, and more things for us to learn. But it's like, unless we're willing to make those changes, guess what? We're going to be having the same conversations. Our kids are going to be having the same conversations, and their kids are going to be having the same conversations. Because right now, the battles we're fighting are the same battles our parents were fighting.
Can I say something really quick? You
Sure.
know what America has an acceptable level of? Racism.
Yep.
Racism. I mean,
Right.
we have to say it's unacceptable, completely unacceptable, because it's our children will have this same conversation. Hell, they are having these conversations right now.
Yeah.
You have grade school kids talking about racism.
Yeah.
I think the difference. I think the difference is, at least lately, in tell me if you guys feel any different, but I think because of quarantine, because of this lockdown, I think everyone has been a lot more comfortable saying that they're not okay.
Yeah.
Right? That this isn't right.
Yeah.
That things need to change, and that's been on repeat. It really has. And I hope, after I get the second shot, started venturing a little bit more out in the world again, that we don't lose that, right? Because it's still not going to be okay.
Yeah.
It's not. And the more the more we just try to empathize a little more with people who don't look like us, who don't think like us. I mean, this world's huge, man. And it's beautiful, and I just don't. I don't know. I just don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Yeah.
All right, Charles, cheer me up, man.
Yeah. Okay. We're gonna move on from here. Let's have a moment of silence for those that did pass and all those that do have suffered through racial violence, which is everybody of color in this country. You know, let's just have a moment of silence for a few seconds. Okay, now we're gonna move on to some more dark news. Zack Snyder's cut is here and in the world, and we're gonna let me start off and say, I've started this movie over 3 times. No, 2 times. I'm going to start over again because I'm doing this for binge worthy. I'm here. I'm here for the bingies out here. The other podcast. I'm going to binge through all 4 hours of one sitting.
Wait. Are you saying you've watched it 4 times, or are you saying you
started it? So I've gotten like 2 hours in, 2 hours and 45 minutes in, and I got to go straight through. And every time I start, I fall asleep somewhere.
Wait,
Travis is like, I see that look on his face right now.
Yeah, you can't start that thing too late. You gotta start like mid-evening.
That's what I'm gonna do. I was supposed to do it this morning, but I couldn't get up early enough to do it.
Started at 9 a.m. with a cup of coffee.
I'm gonna start it at 6:30 in the morning on Sunday morning and be done with it by 10:30 in order to get 4 hours in on this movie.
I see Travis is just waiting to say something.
We're not going to talk about the movie.
Well, okay. All right, let's keep it real though. Okay, do you like wait till 10 o'clock to watch Fellowship of the Ring?
A movie about walking.
How about The Godfather? Hey, let's crack open The Godfather at 11:30.
I could do Godfather 11:30.
No, you can't.
I can do Godfather at 11:30. I can do.
No, you can't.
Oh my goodness, Travis!
Before anybody dies.
Travis, did you watch it yet?
Twice.
Wait, did you get like 2.5 hours in and then restart it, or did you watch it?
Nah.
Or the full like 7-hour version?
Yeah.
The full 7 hours. Yes.
Oh, was your version only 4 hours?
It's only 5 minutes credits. You know
he's probably watching it right now.
He's got it on in the back.
I got a really big monitor. I just bought a really big monitor, so perhaps that is the case. Listen.
Okay, we're not going to talk about it. That is on me, you guys. For some reason, that movie induces narcolepsy on me about 2.5 hours in. Maybe it's because it's all the dark shaders it has on it in the beautiful cinematics.
Okay. We can hate on it forever. Travis, okay, tell us.
Yes.
You watched at the expense of being a lone person here who has an appreciation for it. I think what instead of specifically talking about the movie itself, I think what it's doing is it's showing us like what the shape of entertainment is going to look like in the future, really, or not just that, but almost everything now is never final, right?
Yeah, he did.
It's never final. I mean, to give you an example, I mean, I parked my car and I got an alert because it had to update.
Yes.
My car had to update itself, right? How crazy is that, right?
I'm really concerned if my car wasn't final when they sold it to me.
Yes,
if you got one, past 2017, probably it's not.
Yo, I have a friend that has a Lamborghini truck, and he had to take it in to get the upgrade. They upgraded the wheels, and they upgraded the computer in it.
I don't know what a Lamborghini truck is. That sounds ridiculous.
It is as ridiculous as it sounds, Travis.
Yes.
He said, hey, you want to go with me when I take my Lamborghini truck in? Take it in where? He's like, I got to take it to get upgraded. He said they had to have an upgrade to the software and they had to upgrade my wheels. I was like, sure.
I can't even conceive.
I like that you have to say Lamborghini truck, because otherwise it's just like, where's your Lamborghini?
Right. Yeah.
What?
Lamborghini truck is a thing.
It's, but honestly, it was a piece of media was released into the world. Right. It had bad reactions, to say the least, right? Extenuating circumstances prevented the the original director from actually doing it, and he had a death in the family. It was his daughter, and so he couldn't complete it, so someone else did. And I can honestly say, after watching that movie, Whedon did everything I hated in Justice League, right?
Yeah.
And what the fans did was to say, we're not having it. Give us this. Give us the original director's vision of this. They mounted a campaign. It was effective, and now we have this new version of the movie, and we just can't ignore what that means, because to me, what it is it's showing that movies now are becoming more like games, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because
Straight up matched it.
one of the most successful products that has shipped in the past few years now got remixed and is more popular. And I'm talking about Fortnite, right? Because
Yes.
Fortnite looked nothing like
No.
like it does now.
It was a tower defense game at one point.
Mhm.
Right? And so that's what I feel like is I feel like if this is the shape of things to come, man, I'm sure glad that I'm up on my Agile, because
Yeah. Yeah.
It's funny,
It's about
it's
the
funny if
pivot.
you think about it. It's funny if you think about it, though, right? Because really, Star Wars was the first time this happened, right?
well,
We got
Lucas
the
done
special
remixed that
edition
like 50 times, because I bought every
Yes.
version.
Yes.
remix of
But
the
nobody
movie.
asked for those changes.
Yes. Yes. He took a masterpiece
Yeah, that's the
and
difference.
Weird Al Yankovic'd it.
Having a hut inclusion.
He
like,
did a
yeah.
masterpiece and Weird Al Yankovic'd it versus
We made Leia shoot first.
What's Leia shoot first?
so
Yeah.
Han Solo. Yeah.
The next version.
Yeah, that's the next version. He makes Leia shoot.
But you
While
know,
she's
honestly,
in a slave
like, I mean,
outfit, she just pulls a gun out and shoots Jabba. They're like, I'm out, bitches.
There's
Credits.
nothing hiding here.
you know, honestly though, I think it's really interesting. I mean, I know we're ragging on it and stuff, but I think it's really interesting because, like, I mean, if you think about it, this is like he's living the dream. How many of us have put out a game or piece of creative content that we felt like had potential and it did not land? And you think to yourself, man, if only I could go back and redo that game. And you know it's never going to happen, because especially no one's going to hand you $100 million so that you can redo the thing after
Right.
the first thing didn't land. So he's
Mhm.
living the dream. I'm a little bit
Yep.
jealous.
No,
And-
well,
and
you know,
he's
now that you
talking
think about
smack
it, now
to
that
the
you
other
say it
guy.
like that,
While
Yeah,
talking
now-
smack to the other guy.
You
yeah,
know,
now that
I'm
you
gonna be
said
honest.
it,
Like before, like I didn't like the original one that was released in the theaters. I don't think I'm in the minority for that particular thing, at least. But like, so I was not planning on watching this new one, especially when they were like 4-hour Snyder cut, and I'm like, and you got to be like, I felt like you got to be like a really big DC movie fan to watch it. But you know what, Travis, I'm gonna give this to you because after seeing what you said and a bunch of other people on my Facebook, like I was ready to hate on this movie because I was just like, do I need another 2 hours of what I just saw? I didn't want those first 2 hours. But now I'm like, okay, I'm not like repulsed by the idea of donating 4 hours of my
Are we
time.
gonna watch this movie this weekend?
We
Can
might
we do it
have
in a couple?
to.
Can we do it in a couple of sittings? Do
We
gotta-
can,
ain't
actually, yes.
binge-worthy yet.
Binge it for me, guys. Binge it for
Can I-
me.
But there's
I watched 4 episodes or 4 hours of Fargo like earlier this week in a row. I'm like, I could probably watch a movie that's 4 hours.
Oh,
here's something that and I don't know how much of our listeners or people know about this, but Ray Fisher, who plays Cyborg in the movie, he had a big beef with the way it got cut, and let me tell you, like, and this is topical, very topical. Like, Josh took out all the really cool women stuff. Like, oh my God, like Wonder Woman is completely different now,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And he ripped out really Cyborg's story, and those two things alone made the movie. Like, if you think, like, I mean, I was in awe of those Amazons Like I was like, that is one island you don't want to mess with,
Man.
right? And so, and just having that different feeling, period. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I don't think I'm necessarily ruining this, but
Plug your ears, y'all, if you need to.
on the real, like the main villain, Steppenwolf, he had to run from Paradise Island because they were about to pull out all the whoop ass on him. And I was like,
how
well
dope
done.
they made Steppenwolf's armor was amazing too. How his armor behaved was like, yo, this is so dope. This is dope. They did a lot of dopeness in this. It's just that, you know, I'm start watching at 10 o'clock at night or and 10 o'clock at night in normal people time is like midnight to 1 o'clock in the morning. It's like my 10 o'clock at night. So yeah, it was tough. It was tough for me, but it's good. But what does this do for entertainment, right? For a while there, games were moving to look like movies, right? And now movies are looking more like games.
It really are.
What are games going to look like?
That's maybe like one day.
They're going to like comic books. So we're going for now. We're going to have like the same game 5 different ways.
I think that what's happening is what used to be just the purview of massively multiplayer games, right? Are really it's par for the course for every single game now, because most games that you release now have some sort of online component and have a live component to them as well. Yes. And because they do, you have to deal directly with your audience, and they'll tell you what's wrong with your game.
Yes.
Right? I mean, and the question is, are you going to fix it?
None of this is new, right? Technology always dictates the medium, right? Movies didn't have sound. Movies were black and white, right? So as technology evolved, that got integrated and those things became the norm. So we're just seeing a continuation of something that's been going on for a century.
Yep. Are we going to have a movie that's going to be like Hades, where it's out for 2 years, then we get the final cut of it, like 2 years after it's complete, 2 years later?
I mean, we've already seen, like, we see that, like, all the time.
Hades got Game of the Year off of it.
Like there's extended cuts of like of what the
Lord of the Rings,
Hobbit movies.
Yes.
Lord of the Rings,
Hobbit movies.
Those Hobbit
movies. Yeah, those Hobbit movies.
Stop bragging on me.
Return to the Mountain.
I didn't think of the name of it. Lord of the Rings, doggone it.
You know,
you can watch 12 hours of Lord of the Rings if you want to.
That means there's a lot of hope for Advent children, Final Fantasy Advent children.
I didn't. Well,
that's
okay. On to the next one.
I'm just trying to be hopeful here, guys. You know, Persona 5 Royal Flush may come out next. I don't know. I love Persona. Persona's a great.
You never know. Who knows what's next?
You never know. For gaming, so everybody, if you can do the Puff Daddy, do the Puff Daddy. You know, he who's king of the remix for a while.
He created the remix.
Yeah, he created the remix. So you can do it. Don't be Weird Al Yankovic though, where people make a mockery of your remix. So
I mean, he makes a pretty good living off of that.
He does.
But eating off of that
as game developers, we're not going to do that. Could we imagine somebody doing a remix of Journey like Weird Al Yankovic would do?
Ooh.
It may actually be fun. Actually,
I would say, I think you're creating a new thing right now.
No, we're just describing modding.
Yes, yeah, modding. Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. Okay, we're still talking about Marvel a little bit more. We're going to get back into gaming, but I want to bring up Captain America and their inclusion. We talked about this a little bit on Geek Beast as well, how, you know, Falcon is Captain America, and the new LGBT Captain America is introduced in comic books. And I kind of want to keep that Captain America a little longer than just more than Pride Month. They should keep that Captain America around for a little bit. What do y'all think about that?
Totally agree. I mean, like I always feel like you know, more inclusion, I mean, it's not a bad thing, right? And I know that there is like this impetus for companies to kind of like tie, like you said, the LGBTQ Captain America is gonna be tying it to Pride Month, or just I don't know if it's a one shot or whatever it is, but like let's not make these one shots. Let's integrate them into the actual full universe. Let's actually make them, you know, longer characters.
Yeah.
I mean, like I'm Black 24/7, not just
365.
Yeah, not just February.
Not just February 1st through 28th, maybe 29th, depending on the week.
Depends on the year.
Yeah, depending on the year.
Well, so
Oh,
if
hilarious.
you think about it, right? Like there was a black Captain Marvel, right?
Uh-huh.
They wasn't experimenting like that on white people first.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's where Captain. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what you're saying is that
that's part of
there's
Marvel
some
mythos,
some
right?
realism.
Then of course you have your normal, or your Steve Rogers, Captain America. There've been other iterations, obviously. Falcon was Captain America. I just think that if we're gonna do a gay Captain America, let's have that person hang out for a minute,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
To leave your mark on, right? And I'd be interested in how that really plays into the whole story. I don't know anything about it, so I'd like to read it, because I hope it's just not marketing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, just for
I
Pride
hope it's
Month.
just not marketing. Right?
Yeah, a lot of companies
because,
tend to
yeah.
they forget that gay people exist until June. They forget black people exist until February.
February
And then
15th, somewhere around February 15th.
somewhere in mid-February, they're like, "Oh crap, black
Yeah,
people."
like, oh, I'm not gay anymore.
Yeah,
Like,
and then same thing for like it's right now we're in the middle of International Women's Month, and
Right.
it's like suddenly it's like, oh wait, we should do something about women. Let's get that picture together so we can post it on our social medias. It would be nice to, like you said, and like you and my sister Sheree said too, like it would be nice to have our identities exist outside of just the month where you're supposed to remember our identities exist.
Yeah.
And in doing that, like, yes, you take on some risk of like, oh my gosh, we have to like write a LGBTQIA character for more than a month, like more than once. We might have to have other characters that are like long-standing characters interact with that person as a human being, and not just as a symbol.
Let me push this back.
I think there's some.
Go ahead, Leon.
I was gonna say, I think there's some opportunity here, right? Because I mean, we're at this kind of, as we were talking earlier, we're at this crossroads where we're actually trying to make progress on what equality means America, right? So if that's what the country really makes, then the mantle of Captain America should be shared among different people. And maybe an idea to this is, my son reads a lot of the Batman comics, and they created like this Batman Inc. organization, right, where they had like Batman people all over the world, Africa, Europe, whatever, and they were all part of this organization. So that could be a model that they could take to keep these multiple Captain America. Because look, it's in Marvel Comics, right? They always reset. Whatever they do, Magneto dies, he's back. Jean Grey died. Like Jean Grey is like, I can't stand her because she's like dead and back to life every 5 minutes. But they always reset the status quo to keep their IP going. But yeah, like it would be more interesting to see a longer standing take where they could tell these issues, because man, there's a lot of material there, right? Like you could tell the story of what does it mean to be American and be a Sikh. Remember the Sikh soldier a few years ago?
Yeah.
They were giving him crap because he had his turban on, which was his requirement by his religion, but he's still fighting for America, right? There's so many cool things that you could do with this. So I hope they really do explore this.
Yes. Let's bring this back to gaming. How can this inform gaming? Where do y'all want to start with that? That is the big one. We're people of color here. We're very multidimensional. All of us are very different people, besides our skin colors being different shades of brown. So
yeah, the only thing I'll mention on it is like, and this also relates to what Leon was just saying, is I think sometimes companies maybe are a little afraid to like extend this beyond like the month or the week or the day or whatever, because then it's like, oh, well, now we actually have to realize them as real characters, which means if I'm a white person or whatever and I'm writing this character, I might be able to fake it for like like a week, but after a while, like I need to actually, like, you need to actually have an authentic experience. We've all seen TV media, movies, played games, whatever, where it did not feel like they had a character that you're playing, or a character, maybe it's an NPC, that did not feel authentic.
If you hire us, you don't have to just have a sensitivity reader that
exactly.
Bring out every once in a while.
we need to have these people not only like in front of the camera, on the screen or whatever, but you need to have them actually like in the room helping to make the decisions. They need to be like at the table making the decisions. And I think that's the piece also that like lots of companies, whether it's gaming company, movie, whatever, they don't want to commit to yet, That's a lot of the reason why our numbers, like in terms of diversity numbers, haven't changed in like a decade. So I think that's the piece that is going to be the challenge, to get people to really like understand. It's not enough to just be like, oh, I put a black character, there's a black NPC, look, it's a sidekick. Why don't you, is that not good enough? It's like, no, you need to
I
actually
created a new
have
black superhero, and he has electricity powers.
as they all do.
Wow.
But it's just being in a room. It's just being in a room, right? When you're in a room and these decisions are made, you can speak up. We've all been there. We've all been there when we've either looked at a movie, a TV show, a video game, where you just look at it and you go, was there no one black when this happened? Like, and the one that always sticks out to me that is Daikatana Superfly Johnson. Like, Superfly Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, what the entire, like, seriously, like any black person would have been like, do you know how many critical fails this is, like, all strung together? Like, seriously, like, all you would had to do was had one black person in the room and they would have went, no.
So, but that's what kills me about these situations, because honestly, hiring diversely is cheaper, right? Rather than have to roll back and go, "Ooh, I can't believe we did that," and have to issue apologies. You just need the one person in the room to go, don't think that's a good idea. But that person, it's not enough to hire that person. That person has to be in a position of power.
Yeah.
Right? They have to have a voice.
They have to not only be in the room, they have to be at the table.
The difference between diversity and inclusion. That's why there's two separate terms.
And they can't be threatened to be fired.
Right. Oh, you're such a troublemaker.
I don't know. I mean, I actually sat in a room once with a bunch of folks who were, they were talking about the reason why we need women at the company. I won't tell what company this was, is because we want the women to teach the men how to think like women. So when there's no women in the room, the men know how the women think, and then they can think like the women when they're designing the product. And I'm like, this is like brainworms. Please stop. Just hire women.
All the mental gymnastics you just made me do there.
It was wild. And I'm just like, just hire women, just hire people of color, just hire black folks, just hire folks, disabled folks, just hire folks from those.
We want women to mentor us men on how to be women.
What were they going to get? A lady upgrade or something like that? I don't understand that.
I didn't want to think about it too hard because I don't want to like introduce that psychosis into my head either. So
when you said that just now, I felt like remember the movie Clue? Where she just said flames on the side of my face. That's what I felt just now when you said that.
That's what I was like, what? That's a lot of mental gymnastics you just put me through.
Yep. It's like Leon said, it's easier, it's cheaper, it's smarter. Like cheap, and we're saying cheaper, we're not talking about like the fact that there's a racial pay gap, even though we should talk about that. Pay people what we're worth too. But it's like it's cheaper because like, hey, you know what? I'll give you an example, and this is not game related, but it was sort of game related afterwards. Burger King at the beginning of this month decided they were going to like release a full page ad and put a tweet out that just said, "Women belong in the kitchen." And then if you look at the fine print, it said, "Hey, because we want to give you a scholarship to chefs because there aren't enough women who like work as head chefs and blah, blah, blah." And you're like, if there was a single woman in the approval chain for that, that would not have happened or should not have happened.
You could have made that. You could have made that both funny and effective, right?
Yes,
like,
exactly.
So I don't want to discount the fact that I think they were trying to be cheeky. It was just wrong the way they did it, right?
There's a way to do that, but it's like you can't utilize, like you say, ironic sexism is still sexism. You can't utilize the same tools of like oppression and language of oppression and then be like, well, you just didn't get the joke, chicks. I don't know what your problem is. And it's like, well, okay, listen.
Gotta learn them.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
What you gotta make fun of is the culture of sexism, not utilize the sexism itself as
Yes. Yeah, and if you actually hire the right people and put the right people in place, you don't have to be a subject matter expert on every person's culture, every person's experience.
It'll come up.
You know what they should have had a woman actually make that ad. Like, if you make an ad defending black people by actually trying to dismantle racism, the best thing you can do is have black people make the ad about it. and
Yeah.
just promote it. Just give them the money. Gives them the money. The same thing with women and everything.
The one last thing I'll say about the Burger King thing is that I think KFC Gaming replied back to them to that initial thing and said, first they said, delete this. and they released a tweet that just said, women belong in gaming. And I was like, I don't know why you have a gaming thing, but yes, thank you, KFC Gaming.
It's usually, it's usually Wendy's who at you. Wendy's is their person is they're usually the people who'll be like, oh, hold on, let me show you how this is done, So I need to find out whether or not Wendy's actually said something.
I don't know, but I went to KFC Gaming and I was like, follow.
And if y'all didn't know, Wendy's community manager is a gay black man. I know. So it makes total sense. Wendy comes at you. Wendy comes at you quick. Black Twitter, baby. Black Twitter. Can't beat it.
That makes so much sense now.
It does. It does. Yeah. So
what else we got?
We're gonna move on a little bit further because we know, gaming can definitely benefit with some more inclusion and diversity longer than a month. Comic-Con's canceled and E3's canceled. So when am I gonna see you nerds?
Next right here every
Saturday, 1 p.m.
In person. A lot of people are completely mystified about Comic-Con and E3. Let's focus on E3 because we know we're a gaming podcast. What can we tell the viewers that is overhyped on E3? Like, I go to E3 just to see my friends. That's where it's like we can all take off work and meet up in one place. It's like the honeycomb hideout.
E3 is the most wonderful and horrible thing in gaming simultaneously. And it's wonderful because, like you said, you're getting together with your peers and you're catching up, right? You're sitting down at the JW Marriott, you're at the bar and you just watch people go by. And that part is absolutely fantastic. For those who make games, E3 is a disaster because it's like 3 months of your schedule gone, basically building a demo for this show where you're going to throw most of that code out because it's all hacked together for the show. So from a scheduling perspective, developers are secretly like, thank God there's no E3 because it's literally saving them 25 to 30% of their year in terms of actual development time.
Oh my gosh, it is such a it is such a nightmare. E3 is always such a nightmare. It just takes your development schedule and you basically have to bend it into like a pretzel to show your game, which is not shipping for like 3 more years, and make it look like it's shippable and playable and cohesive and fun. And like you said, add a whole bunch of like bumpers to the front and to the back that make it seem like it's a whole separate thing. And then half the time you can't even reuse it for the next show because like a lot of times you wind because the US audience you get at E3 and the US press you get at E3 is different and looks at different things than you might have for a Gamescom. So like, no, you need to do another demo for Gamescom. So 2020, as terrible as it was, I did breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief for that part of 2020.
Might have the dissenting opinion on this.
Like the pretzels. Is that you a pretzel fan? You like? Is your middle name?
No. His name's Travis Pretzel.
He just likes to crack the time whip.
E3,
TPW.
No, E3 is not a surprise party.
It's what? It's what?
Not a surprise party.
E3 is at the same time, right? And months and months ahead of time when E3 is, right? Now, ideally, if and I caveat that, it is ideally what you're showing at E3 should be some reflection as to where you are at as far as your game is concerned, right? And so when you decide that you want to fork code to make sure that you have something stable for E3. Now, I know the chaos that E3 demos bring about, but it's not shocking. They're always at the same time. Now that being said, what I don't like about E3 lately, or the past E3s that I've been going to, is this sort of exclusive mentality that some of these publishers have, where you're on the floor, but you either can't get in to see the game, or the line is so obnoxious that it takes you like 4 hours to actually see a game. right? I just can't stand it. You know, I'm like, if you're going to be on the floor, show and prove, right? And the great thing about having these electronic shows now, like, you know, these shows online is that you got a front row seat a lot of times. The content is there for you to look at. So individual companies having their own sort of day to shine, I actually think is better, because then you have that unfettered access, and you can sort of craft that message a little better. And
wait,
most of the time, you don't have like 20,000 people trying to play your game, so you can just film whatever you want.
Wait, so you're in favor of the online E3 then? Is that what I'm getting?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. No, I agree with that too. I mean, yeah, you know, Travis, if we're gonna talk about like ideal situation, sure, you know, I can talk about how ideally nothing would ever go wrong in game development. But no, but I agree with you. I agree with you. Like E3 is amazing and it is terrible, and it's like I get there and I'm energized and I'm also exhausted at the same time. And simply put, like I agree with you about like them, like you get to the show by the time like right, you know, muggles, folks who aren't in the game development,
those muggles, those
non-exhibitors,
you know,
by the time they get in the
muggles
door,
and mudbloods.
I didn't say mudblood just sounds racist, man. I don't know.
Yes.
But by the time they get in the door, I remember like when they opened E3 up to the press, there was that big complaint of like, I got in the door and every line was already 4 or 5 hours long. It was really unfair. I also feel kind of bad because I absolutely had an exhibitor badge, and yeah, I was in one of those lines, and I know you guys were too. Because here's the thing: we're all gamers too. We make games. We also want to play games. So yeah, I made deals with folks over in the booth next door. So I'm like, oh, I want to try that new 3DS, and I want to try this demo, and I want to try that demo. You know, because E3 is really exhausting for game developers, not just folks who. Not just because you probably spent months and months of your schedule to try and put something together. God help you if it was a hands-off demo too, by the way. Hands-off demo was completely different spheres of disruption. But you spend months for that one moment, and a gamer will come through, or press post will come through, and they'll spend 7 minutes and talk about how this is trash. And so that can make or break your game. So it's stressful just in that regard, but also just folks who are working the show. I've never been to an E3 as a tourist, as someone who just got to enjoy the show. I've only ever been to E3 while I was working the booth, doing interviews with press or taking in pitches. And so it's a different, like when I think of E3, I think of a different thing. And I also think of, you know, I love times when I didn't have to go to E3 and I could just watch it on my computer in the past too.
Anyone ever see the show The Boys?
Yes.
There's this scene where Homelander is like speaking to the people, and the people are yelling at him like, you suck, and he just imagines for a second where he takes his I-beams and just like mows everybody down. That's what happens when that guy says you suck. You're daydreaming, just cutting them right in half.
You know, it's one of those things it's super hard. I always say, like, my favorite part of the game development process is the end. It's when you get to put like your creative thing out into the world. You hope people will love it. Yeah. Sometimes they don't. But either way, I would rather someone have a strong reaction, whether it's love or hate, than you just put something out there and they're just like, huh.
But you know what? And this would be a good segue for Charles. When they love it, and you go to Comic-Con, one of my favorite things at Comic-Con is sitting at a bar and watching the cosplayers go by. And when someone is cosplaying your game, oh man.
Yeah, it is. It's the best. It is the best. It's one of the most amazing feelings. Only thing better than that when you see somebody with a tattoo of your character on their arm.
That's happened to me. That's happened to me. Like,
was it you, Travis? Did you get a tattoo of your own character?
No, I haven't. But no, I mean, working on Vampire the Masquerade and Mage and Werewolf, I've had my share of people come up to me with full on tattoos of things that I have created, and it is
awesome.
Flattering and scary all at the same time.
Yes.
You're like, that's so cool. And you're like looking for exits.
Yeah.
Don't worry, we're gonna have geekish network
bro.
tattoos.
Yeah.
Your hair.
Yeah, you know what? Yeah, if anyone wants to tattoo like any art or anything that I create, I'm like, I'll take that as a compliment. I'll be like, I don't know why you would, but hey, you know what? That's
cool. Because it's good. Actually, have you been drawing something today?
Oh, I haven't drawn too much today or anything. Maybe I'll share a little something that I've been playing with a little bit.
What you got?
Yeah, we're getting close to the end anyway. We talked about enough stuff almost. And this has been a kind of a light day for us. We have a list of topics I haven't gotten around to, but
we have so much stuff to talk about.
we floated around some things, but since Comic-Con is coming and Comic-Con was developing their gaming presence, what is it going to look like next year? Because people understand there was a whole pinball room, there was a whole entire Comic-Con has a stepchild. It's on the far ends. They have the artist alley, which should be in the middle of the floor.
Awesome.
And then they have way on the left side all video games. Like you have all the merch. Then on the other side of the merch, you have video games. And usually Blizzard has the booth in the back. They want that space, and they put all the games over there. But I heard they're trying to grow the presence of gaming on Comic-Con.
I'm wondering if the future of a lot of these events that have had to go online by necessity last year and this year is like a hybrid model
forever.
The online, I went to several online conventions last year and they were awesome. Some of them were really well done. Like you got to interact with speakers. It was a lot more comfortable, a lot more intimate in a lot of ways too.
Yeah.
There's all this pomp and circumstance around a lot of these really big events. And part of the reason why I said E3s and GDCs and that kind of stuff, as much as I love them, they exhaust me to even think about, because I know that I'm gonna have to book a flight, possibly book a hotel room. I'm gonna have to get my schedule arranged ahead of time. I have to make sure I bring all these things with me. It's a whole bunch of it's stress.
Yeah.
And just being able to, as frustrating as a global pandemic's been, being able to say, hey, I'm showing up to an event and hey, I'm here.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No hotel
You can tell
lottery.
your employer, I'm going to Comic-Con, and you do it from your house.
Click.
Yeah, I don't need to take any time off or anything. The other thing is kind of not can I just mention one of the things that's just crossed my mind since we've been in this whole coronavirus thing. There's so many things that we used to do, and I'm just I can't imagine going back to doing. I can't imagine going back to a crowded convention hall anymore.
Day four of the convention.
Yeah,
It's funny how technology actually forces these things, right? And I don't know whether or not we've had enough time alone to force us into that mode. But a perfect example of that, which used to be totally acceptable, but to me now seems to be the grossest thing ever, is a public phone. You know how gross a public phone seems now? Right?
Yes.
You couldn't pay me to use a public phone.
No.
I'm
No, that's what I was thinking about in gaming conventions, picking up controllers.
But for real.
Sweat and everything through controllers.
Or VR on your face.
Oh yeah, that's done.
Yeah,
I was
like,
doing
no.
VR on my face a long time ago. When I
There's a
worked in
VR arcade around the corner. That was the first thing to go out of business last year.
Yeah.
But
we would fight people back when I worked at EA as a tester. It was no, this is my controller. You don't touch my controller. If you need to do some multiplayer, you bring your controller over here, and then back.
There's also
you don't wash your hands.
Yeah, you go wash your hands.
There's also some thoughts here about tech, which are interesting with Comic-Con. One of the things that I hate about Comic-Con is the lines, right? There's always a line somewhere. You're lining up for people. Look, at this point, network coverage in Comic-Con is great. I got 5 bars of signal. All those lines could be virtual. And then those people could be on the floor spending money, which the vendors would actually prefer. But they haven't gotten rid of that, because that's part of the culture of Comic-Con, is sitting in these lines to nowhere infinity. Because the worst is you sit in the line and you get all the way to the door. It's oh, it's full and you didn't get in, right? And that's happened to me a few times.
Scares me is Hall H. The line for Hall H. And they pride themselves in it. I said, all it takes is one person to do a Mr. Mercedes, and thank God it's not happened, is take a vehicle and run it to mow people over. Because people at 4 o'clock in the morning, it's easy. People are not lucid at 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, they literally spend the night out there. It's that's ridiculous.
It's not healthy. It's not
There's
healthy at all.
So I wonder if there's a technical solution. I mean, yes, there's a technical solution that
it's called
I love the idea of virtual
lines.
lines. But then I also think to myself, I'm don't I have virtual lines for PS5s, and yet I don't have a PS5 right now, even though I've stood in lots of virtual lines. So that there's somebody who's immediately gonna figure out how to jump that virtual line. So we gotta They got to figure out how to
you
make
can,
it
you,
fair,
can,
too.
you can tie a personal
Maybe
code to
it's a
every
check-in
ID.
thing.
You can have a tie personal code every member ID. Everybody gets in virtual line, and you
It
There's
can
can be
definitely a
as simple as
you
you.
can be grouped with certain groups. Like you can be in
Mhm.
part of 2 groupings. There's
Yeah.
ways to fix all
It's
this.
well,
And
I
also-
think that conventions as a whole are really gonna change.
I hope so.
They're gonna have to, right? And I
Mhm.
don't know. Um, it's me wearing my DC Comics hat again, but like the fandom event that they did was amazing. I don't know if anybody here actually went to the fandom event, but that's where the Snyder Cut really got all its hype from and all this other kinds of stuff. But it was a
Mhm.
virtual event, and it was amazing. It was amazing. The programming was, I mean, it was on it, and it was the first time where I really looked at a virtual event and said, "This is a thing. This is a thing." And look, I don't see why you wouldn't do it that way. I
Yep.
don't, because yes, there's a certain amount of mystique to being there in Hall H. I get it, right? But at the same time, why not give even a subset of that experience to
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
Yeah, you could
to a-
charge $25
Yeah,
tickets
I'm sure you can
virtually a
monetize it.
day,
Yeah.
and then you can anybody
Yeah.
wants to show up, they can pay the normal Comic-Con fee price of
Right.
$195 for 5 days, and let people do what they want to do. Because a lot of people, I met people that come in from Sweden. I meet them every year, and we go have breakfast together, and they never spend a day in their hotel. They're always in Hall H line. They always get in, but they have a system set up. They always get in Hall H.
I've never been to Hall H
Yes.
ever. 'Cause I just I don't I look at that. I know that's a whole ordeal.
Mhm.
Yeah, I just don't think the juice is worth the squeeze.
Yeah,
I would rather do other things with my day.
I
And I've
did
got
it one
friends
time.
that go
I got in the
every
Hall
year.
H one time, and that was George R. R. Martin's team. I got in with them for the Game of Thrones conference. That's the only time I've ever been in.
And the other thing is I hope that that we don't get into this mindset like we've done for so many things, which is let's go back to pre-coronavirus everything. Like we have the
No.
technology for this. I think we should take advantage of it and evolve it because honestly, like with offering stuff like online like this, it does make it more accessible for people.
Yep.
It does. I mean, there's so many people who I mean, whether they're developers in other countries and they don't have money to kind of fly over here and do whatever, like it is an ordeal. It is definitely a big ordeal try and go in person. So I do hope that they continue with some kind of hybrid model, at the very least, some kind of hybrid model,
Yeah. Yeah.
that other people can take advantage of.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yes. Especially for people, because let's be honest, we get it because we're professionals. We're there. We're gonna be there. We get the
Yeah.
passes.
Whether
I
they wanna
can't
be there or
imagine
not.
paying $500 for a Comic-Con pass and buying $1,000 worth of hotel and can't stay in it. All the hotel does is hide my stuff that I purchased. The
Yes.
30 minutes I'm on the floor waiting in line for my limited edition stuff. You
Yep.
know,
I mean, if anything, that shows you that fandom, they got dollars,
they
right?
do got
They'll
dollars.
give them to you, right? And if
Let me spend
Amazon
it.
has taught me anything, it's that if I see it, I can have it.
Yes, yes. If casinos,
Yeah.
if casinos taught you anything, if you have it in your pocket, we're gonna take it. They have penny slots. They start off big high roller tables in the middle, $10,000 tables, and as you edge all the way out the casino, they have a penny slot machines, literal
take the
penny
pennies.
slot machines. We're gonna
Mm.
take your pennies.
We'll take
Yeah,
the whole
guess what?
Why
thing.
not take it all? Take it
And
all.
all our tables now take credit cards, so you don't even have to have real money. We'll take the credit too.
Yeah.
Please.
We're
So-
not gonna charge you a fee. Put it in there. Tell how much you want to put on it, and we'll give it to you.
Crazy.
We'll hit
That's
your
funny.
daily limit for you.
Yep. Happy to help people spend money,
Yeah,
right?
So, and I tell everybody, like, if Comic-Con could copy anything from E3 is you always put your big vendors in the back corners. EA's the only big vendor up front for the most part, but everybody else is on the corners, so people can navigate and get the lines around the corners instead of putting Marvel smack dab in the middle. Like, why would you do that?
But
Then DC next to them on the counter corner, then Mattel. Like, why would you do that? That doesn't make sense.
But by the way, I know we're almost out of time, but I really want to talk about Super Nintendo World.
I don't.
Come on, Travis.
Come
you
on,
hate it
man.
for Super Nintendo World, dude.
Oh, the world. Oh,
the
not
world,
The
the
Nintendo.
world,
actual-
like
the
the
Universal
thing that
Studios.
we should all go to. The
I've been
awesome
there.
thing.
I've been there a lot. I worked on it.
Yeah, you got to tell us about. You got to tell us a little bit.
I
About
worked
Charles,
on it.
tell us about it. Tell us. You
Yeah.
know, I mean,
It's
you can't tell-
amazing. You play a video game. It's 4 teams. I can't say too much because they still have their soft opening, and the
Yeah.
NDAs still stand. But it's 4 different teams. You pick a team based on your wristband, and you walk in, and you're playing a video game. And so
Like-
there's a piranha plant game you have to play, and then there's you get coins, and you're trying to get all the icons in order to win the game for the day. And the team with the highest score is the winner. But the food is very delicious. You eat all kinds of food. The games are remarkable because everything's augmented reality and virtual. Not virtual, it's augmented reality. So you walk into your first punch block, and you're like, okay, I'm gonna punch the block. And they're like, punch the block, and you're like, doo-doo, doo-doo. You're like, oh my God. It's to the point where you had to put a dampener on it. Like, we have to cut the block off. Then you go into another room. You know how to have the rotating blocks when you're playing casino?
Mhm,
You have to hit them all. You go ding 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 ding. And so you got a special prize, and it comes onto the app. And the boss battle. I'm not going to talk about the boss battle. And
Oh
then-
no!
Yeah.
Don't spoil it. Don't
Mario
spoil it.
Mario Kart's fun too. It's not the Mario Kart I would have designed, but when I got there, they already had this Mario Kart, and I'm like, okay. The Yoshi
I need
ride
to
is
go to this.
interesting.
Yeah, I need this.
Yeah,
It's
But
coming.
it looks like you transport into Nintendo world. He's like,
Why
Well,
Travis
step
got a
through
look
there.
on his face just like we were talking about Zack Snyder cut or something again? Come on, Travis.
Travis like, I ain't
Nintendo,
in for
man.
that kitty stuff. I
You
don't
not
play
have
that
a
kitty
heart?
stuff.
The only thing I'll mention is like, so I know that one's open. That one's Osaka,
Leon's like,
right?
me neither. F that
No,
plumber.
I was talking about Travis.
No, he's like, F that plumber. I had a hard time with plumbers growing up. I met a plumber.
were you not
he came
able to-
our
did you not
house,
finish
he
eight-
showed
World
all his
8-1?
ass crack. I ain't
Look,
never
I
been the
have
same.
I have said this
You didn't find the last warp zone,
numerous
did you?
times.
What did Miyamoto do to you?
I've said this numerous times. I am not the Nintendo target audience. Yeah, I embrace it. You know, I have grown out of that phase, but you know, I
The
respect.
phase of good games.
Say what?
The phase of good games. They make great games, Travis.
They make the same games, and I've played them.
They
There's-
do. They do make the
there's so-
same games.
Travis,
Okay,
let us enjoy this awesomeness. You don't have to come. You're gonna go. You know.
We're
you're
gonna drag you
But
along.
Halo,
Because they're
most
opening-
games make the same game. They just
Yeah, but and I'm sick of that. And I'm sick of that game too.
Literally
Okay.
just watched the
It's a
same
Nintendo
movie.
Joy Zone.
We started this call with him saying the same movie was the best thing ever. But
First of all, I
now,
didn't say it was the
you
best thing
can't
ever.
have the same
thank you,
game.
Leon. Say it again and one more time, Leon.
I'm just saying, you know.
And
Um,
and second of all,
Miyamoto cut.
I don't know what
care
Miyamoto
about
did
your
to you.
level.
I don't know. I don't know what Link did
I don't
to
care
you.
about your magic mushrooms.
You know, I don't know what Mario did to you.
Well,
but
well, you know-
Travis, you might get your chance,
Shit.
even not going to Japan because they're opening up Super Nintendo World in Orlando, I think, in 2025.
hopefully
So-
it may
Yes.
happen.
Yeah, I'll be dead by then.
Hopefully.
He'll be dead, and he will be watching the
Hopefully,
Snyder Cut for the
hopefully they get that
3,425th
We'll bring the
It'll be
urn.
Snyder's grandchild's cut or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I have to say, like, you know, I go by the Mushroom Queendom online. It's like that too. So you know I'm excited about
You
going
know,
to
yes,
Super
we should
Nintendo
go because
World.
I'm not a super diehard Nintendo fan, but I can only imagine. I mean, we had kids playing some stuff, and the kids are hilarious. We're like, oh my god, look at these kids. Japanese kids were like, oh my god, they're going crazy. They're going crazy. You're doing
I mean,
game
I
testing stuff.
I am so excited. I've been trying to like, not look
Maybe-
at news about it because I don't want to get spoiled. But what? Go, Travis.
Maybe
Are you saying something nice?
two Asian guys will show up at your house and ask to play with your Wii.
Damn.
You're referring to the Wii
Damn.
commercial?
The Wii
The
commercial.
most awkward video game commercial ever made.
It was.
I'm sure
It's
there
two
are. I'm sure there's
strange,
more
two
awkward
strange
ones.
dudes just show up at your house wanting to play with your Wii. Get out of here.
I think the actual wording for the commercial was, "We would like to play." But
That
I
was
Yes,
would
we would like to
With what?
play.
With what?
They didn't say with your Wii.
They brought the Wii.
They said
So-
we would like to play.
Oh, I'm the only person who made that joke.
No, many
Wait a
people
second.
made that joke.
See, once again, see, it's all coming back now, right? Like if they would have just had an American in the room going,
look at Leon's face. He's like, yeah, whatever.
Can we play
Leon, this is your friend. This is your
I mean,
friend.
I don't know.
He's announcing a whole
grown
game
man, he makes
library
his own
because of the
decisions.
commercial.
I might have agreed
he's like,
with you.
commercial
but
so
I
bad, I
can't
don't want
argue
to play
with
the
sales
game.
numbers. I can't argue with the sales numbers for that thing.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
thing, like like hotcakes, blockbuster, whatever phrase you want to use.
Actually, I just got on here listening to
like a hotcake cat?
I think
No,
I think
it was
this
a
is
pancake cat, but pancake cat's supposed to make a
Yeah,
big.
hotcake, pancake, cat,
Yeah.
same thing.
I just want to mention. I think
Out
this
of
is
butter.
of the Mandela effect, where you remember it just a little tiny little differently.
Yeah.
What it was before.
Yeah. Well,
But-
I commend Nintendo for still being in the battle for console supremacy, considering they're not even coming out with the same power as the other two consoles. You know,
That's because Nintendo is not playing the same game.
they're not playing the same
They
game.
aren't.
Literally.
They're
I
not.
agree.
Okay, this is
And
true.
They're not.
that's a subject for another techn00bians
Yes.
broadcast too. And then I can put on my hate pants and then we can all do it. We all just
What
go
color are
ahead.
your hate pants, Travis?
Huh?
What color are your hate pants?
Black.
Black.
Damn.
Right. We look forward to it.
Travis with the hate pants.
Before we have that talk, there's a podcast called Business Wars, and they have it Nintendo versus PlayStation. He breaks down what happened between the two companies and all the figures involved. It's really interesting. It's on Business Wars. It's a Wondery podcast, and I advise people to listen to it. I listened to it right before I finished it, right before this started today. I finished like 9:00 this morning. Before and I was listening to the last one. It's like 5 episodes. They're like 45 minutes each.
That's
But
why
it's
you didn't have
about
time to watch the
Nintendo
Snyder Cut.
versus PlayStation, and it's really, really good. And one thing I learned is Nintendo is about experimentation, and Sony is about pushing technology. And I mean, and you listen to, you see the people that were involved that developed these companies. You see that, you see that a lot. Like
I can see that.
because he talks about the personalities more so than the companies. Like who drove these companies to be these different things. He doesn't really go into Sega too much, and he doesn't even bring it up. He brings up Microsoft, but the business wars between Sony and Nintendo was a big thing, and he talks about why he wanted to do it because the PlayStation was supposed to be a Sony console. I mean, the PlayStation was supposed to be a Nintendo console.
Yeah.
Nintendo console, yeah.
I remember all that.
Yeah, so he does when they decided to do battle against each other, and they actually pitted themselves against each other. They never thought about Sega, nor did they ever think about Xbox. They were like, "That's not my competition. Nintendo's our competition." And Nintendo was like, "Microsoft and Sega are no longer our competition. It's all about killing PlayStation."
Believe it. I believe it.
Yeah,
That out.
yeah. So
I
that's
would love to dive into some Nintendo history stuff too. Like this
it's
is like
interesting.
super
It's
interesting.
really interesting.
And Travis can have his hate pants on for it.
Yeah, because the guy that took over the company, I forgot his name, that his father created Nintendo. He was a failure. He was like a super playboy. He always ate Western food and drove nice cars and stuff. He was not Japanese as you traditionally thought. First thing he did was damn near fire everybody.
Well,
You're
look,
loyal to my dad, you're getting fired.
my dislike with Nintendo really boiled down to the business practices, and how when they put out Donkey Kong Country, like no other game company could actually make that cartridge for that price point. And it was a clear, it was as clear as day that Nintendo cared about nothing else but themselves. Because it was just like they sold that cartridge for less than the cost of goods, right? And so how do you actually compete with that? Like, how do you do that, right?
Yeah,
And
from
so,
a developer
and
standpoint.
so at the time, when I was making Super Nintendo games, we would just look at that and go, it's over for this round. It's over.
Yes.
Like, so is our time, right? Yeah, probably.
Yes. Well, we'll keep that for another conversation because that's in the whole. We need to get back into the talking about this whole gaming business for people because people don't understand how the gaming business is. And you tell that a lot from Clubhouse and talking to people that want to make games or think they are making a game. I said,
By the way,
they are making a game.
So next episode, should we crush people's dreams?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
At least we got to the bottom of the question, the answer to the question of like who hurt you, Travis. And now now we know.
Mario.
We know. It was Donkey Kong. Donkey Kong did it. Donkey Kong did it. I'm gonna buy Travis a Donkey Kong toy this Christmas.
I'll cut
Oh
you.
my.
I'll cut you.
And Diddy, Donkey and Diddy, since they're both in country.
It was good for
What's up?
There's also Cranky Kong.
Yeah, I know it. No, we're gonna do it for you, Travis. We can get it for you. We're gonna do it for you. With that said, we're gonna conclude the podcast for today. We know, as always, we enjoy you tuning in and talking with us and listening to what we had to say. The Geekish Network, as you all know, we still have shows after this. We have Pod Squadron tonight, and tomorrow we had Nerdtastic. And next week, fortunately, most of the podcast is going to be talking about the Snyder Cut. I don't even call it Justice League. I call it the Snyder Cut. The Snyder Cut. We're going to talk about the Snyder Cut. So, Pangeekery on Monday, Binge-Worthy on Wednesday, and Origins Illustrated on Thursday. We're talking about the Snyder Cut.
Nice.
Yes.
Don't hate.
Yes. Dang.
Yeah, I hear Mario's in it.
If he was, I would have watched it by now.
Dang.
Twice even.
Dang. We're not going to hate. Thank you for tuning in. As always, we want to thank Digital Click for giving us our artwork. They handle all our creatives for us and everything, all our promotions. Thank you, Jeremy Germ 33, for donating the computer for our sweepstakes. If you haven't entered our sweepstakes, you got 2 weeks left to enter the sweepstakes. Subscribe to the channel. If you have Amazon Prime, you can subscribe to Prime Gaming for free. It costs you nothing, and it helps us out a lot. And remember, tonight we have Pod Squadron, and tomorrow we have Nerdtastic. And before I close out, one thing I was always going to ask you in this podcast, what are y'all playing? Travis, what you playing?
Hades.
You finished it yet?
Shanae, what are you playing?
I'm still playing Legends mode for Ghost of Tsushima. I should
Okay.
probably play something else too.
Cherie?
Also various VR games.
Okay, nice. She's letting us know what's up for real. I know what she's doing there. Cherie?
I'm playing some indie games, A Short Hike, and I'm hoping to be able to start on Greece very soon.
Do you like a short hike?
I love that little game. It's very calming and like.
Oh
it's
man,
like,
I have it, and I'm just looking at it every day. Like I'm gonna play you one day.
It's so good.
I bought it the day it came out. There's some indie games I just buy the day they come out just to support the developers. They're really nice.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
Really
Leon, what are you playing?
Doom Eternal, The Ancient Gods, Rip and Tear.
Nice. And I'm playing Animal Crossing because it's summer.
I gotta get back into that.
Yeah.
Same.
I'm playing Animal Crossing. Maybe we can all join each other's islands.
Yes.
Travis, you can join our island too once you get a Switch Pro.
I have a Switch. I will beat your ass with it too.
Once you get with the program.
With that said, I'm going to end on some peace. Love you, Travis. I love you as much as I love Nintendo.
Oh.
Just a little.
All right. With that said, you all have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Peace.
You too. Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.